I gotta admit, I was a little hesitant on watching the new Marvel TV series on Disney Plus. I'm talking about Echo. This was a show that when it was first announced, I thought, really? Echo? That character? I mean, she was fine on Hawkeye, but she was not the first person, the first character that I was dying to see a spin off show after that. And you heard reports that the show was awful, that it was terrible, it was unwatchable, and that's why Marvel was just going to dump all 5 episodes in one day because they've never done that before. But then we saw that trailer, and that trailer looked good. That trailer looked dark and looked edgy and bloody, and it looked like it had way more promise than before. So I've watched now. I took the time. I did like 1 episode per day. I wanted to really take this in. And I'm going to talk about the good and the bad because I do think it has both. I can't, in good conscience, say the show's great or it's even good. I can't say that, right? Because I also have a lot of things that I'm disappointed about the show that I thought the show did poorly. So let's start off with the positive, though. Let's start off with the good. The first good is Alaqua Cox, the main actress that plays Maya Lopez, aka Echo. I think she's great. I liked her on Hawkeye, so that's why when it was announced, I thought it was more weird for the character to get a spinoff versus the actress. I thought the actress was good enough and capable enough, and by watching this, she was competent enough to carry this show, even being deaf in real life, even being a character that you never get to hear her voice. They do a good job of sort of showcasing what she's thinking, how she feels about certain situations and certain characters to where you feel like you know her enough to be able to follow along with her. And I also thought that the show, this is another point that I want to list for good, the more serious tone. I thought they did a good job of, they had a little bit of comedy, like a tiny, tiny bit of some quirks or some one-liners, or like her cousin Biscuits, who was a little goofy, but it felt like they weren't trying to hit you over the head with the comedy. The Native American representation. I personally think that having at least one superhero, I mean, come on, it's one character. To have a Native American background, to have that be a big part of her history and of her story, I'm okay with that. I think that's great. I think representation all the way around. When people complain that, oh, Marvel is woke now, or, oh, really, if anything, has a female character, or if anything, has a character of a different race, people yell woke as if we can't have one character that is different or that isn't really showcased in any other movie or show that we've seen before. So this was refreshing for me. Bringing back Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin. Now, just in general, having Vincent D'Onofrio back is way better than where this could have gone. When he showed up in Hawkeye, and it was D'Onofrio, it was the same actor that played Kingpin in the Daredevil Netflix shows, I was ecstatic, I was elated. And have I been happy with what they've done with him since? We'll get into that later, but I do like that Marvel tried to please the fans that loved him as this character. They very easily could have just recasted this role, and sure, we would have been pissed at the beginning. Sure, we would have been outraged. We would have been kicking and screaming, but we probably still would have fucking watched, you know? So kudos to Marvel for bringing back this actor and letting him still do his thing. Last positive thing I want to mention is the Charlie Cox Daredevil cameo. I will bring this back around later, but it's another situation where, once again, Marvel, Disney brought back Charlie Cox from the Netflix universe. I greatly appreciate that. And even though I liked his role, his part in the She-Hulk show, I know a lot of people didn't like maybe how silly he came off on that show, that it was played up for more of a comedy, romantic type stuff, and the one night stand and the walk of shame. I get why people don't like it. I thought it was fun. And I think it showed that Charlie Cox has a lot of range in his performance. But seeing him here, it's one scene, it's one fight, but you very clearly hear Charlie Cox's voice. You very can clearly see that it's him in the costume for the most part. And it felt like old Daredevil. It felt like Netflix Daredevil. Just the level of action, the level of fight choreography that they put into it, the serious tone that Charlie Cox had as Daredevil. The suit itself looked almost identical to the old Daredevil suit. So it made me hopeful that, especially since they reworked and rewrote the Daredevil series, that maybe this is what they're aiming to go for more. They realize that Daredevil is an important character to get right, and so they will do their best to do just that. With that out of the way, though, let's talk about the bad. The bad with this show. I mentioned the Native American representation, and I do like that, but the whole flashbacks of the Choctaw tribe, I mean, I know that this is a real cultural thing. I know this is a real story that goes back to their natives, and so I don't want to be disrespectful as far as me not fully understanding it. I mostly thought that the way it was presented, the way it was sort of thrown out there without a good enough sort of explanation or a good enough reasoning for why this is important to them as characters. I know this is their backstories. I know this is what they grew up on and what even Maya was told to as a child of what their ancestral history is. It caught me off guard when I started episode 1, and the first like 2 minutes was an unexplained, random, non-human looking group of people under a cave, and you didn't really know what was going on, and then they come out and they turn human, and I was sitting here going, what is going on? And I know that they explain it later. I just feel like they spent a lot of time, a lot of minutes. This is only 5 episodes, and every episode is not that long, especially towards the end. And there was a lot of flashbacks to the same type of shots, same footage. I felt like these flashbacks in this time could have been used for a slightly better story, for something that maybe either explained this better, or maybe I was just looking for a different type of story with the Echo character. I also did not love the supernatural aspect to it. I found Echo and this show, the idea of this show, more appealing when I thought it was going to be more grounded, when I thought it was going to be more of a crime sort of based story. For the second bad thing that I have listed here, it's Maya's relationship with Bonnie. We see a flashback of them as children and they're cousins, but Maya clearly says, "No, you're my sister. I know we're cousins, but I look at you as my sister." And that instantly told you that these two were close. And I know Maya left abruptly after her mother died, and it was this whole family sort of tragedy that strained them for sure. And you get some hints that Bonnie tried to stay in contact with Maya, tried to text with her, and at some point they fell off. At some point, Maya stopped talking to her. And when Maya comes back to Oklahoma, I was waiting for them to have that moment, for them to have that reunion, for them to have that conversation, to go back into being like, wow, Maya almost didn't realize how much she needed Bonnie back in her life in that way. And we never got that. I understand that if Maya felt like if she got close to Bonnie once again, that she would just be putting her in danger. And there's a few times where Bonnie gets kidnapped, numerous times. And so, yeah, she's in danger, sure. But her pushing her away did not keep her safe at all. It kind of did the opposite. So that now, in retrospect, seems silly. But more so for the actress that plays the older Bonnie, they didn't really give her much to chew on. They didn't really give her a stance on how she feels about everything. I mean, she looked sad, but it was like, can we get a conversation between them? Can we get something that's not just, hey, get out of here. Hey, go home. Hey, we can't talk. They never really, they end the series with the idea that maybe they'll get back into that, but I needed to see it personally, especially for all the time they showed these characters. Next bad thing is, as much as I am trying to be positive, I'm trying to give Marvel credit that they brought back these actors, I can't help but be disappointed by how little Daredevil we got. And I know that this isn't his show. I'm not saying that they owe us more Daredevil, but when you put him in the trailer, when you know that this is one of the biggest selling points of this show and why people are excited about it, why people were excited for the She-Hulk show because they teased him on there so much, it's like Marvel knows how much we're clamoring for more Daredevil. And so, yes, it was cool to get the one fight scene, but I can't believe that we didn't get another moment of him coming back, whether it's at the end. And I'm not saying Daredevil shows up in Oklahoma and saves the day. No, I just mean just another scene of New York and another scene of maybe he interacts more with Echo later at some point, because he shows up and you see that he's sort of tracking Kingpin's men and Kingpin's aware of him, but they don't get into like, well, what happened after that? you know, like, did anything ever come of that? Did Echo, if Echo kept working for Kingpin, did she run into Daredevil again? I have so many questions. Maybe they will get answered later. Maybe I'm just starved for more Charlie Cox. The last thing that I'm listing here for bad is Kingpin was kind of wasted. When you compare how well written and how well used Kingpin was in the Netflix shows, and I know that this isn't the Netflix show. I get that this is something different. I get that this is only 5 episodes. I get that a lot of other things are at play and going on here. And they probably wanted to focus more time on other stuff, clearly. But I think Kingpin, he was technically used better here than he was on Hawkeye, because I thought in Hawkeye he was goofy, whereas here he was grounded. Here he did have a vast closeness to Maya. I wish they explained more why he was willing to forgive her for shooting him in the face. I mean, I get it, but he didn't really address it. He just shows up and sort of just says, let's go back to being a family. I'll offer you your own criminal empire. And he just sort of ignored everything. He didn't give Maya a reason for why she should just be okay with the fact that he had her father killed. Like, they don't get into that. They don't get into why he wanted her father killed in the first place. There's a lot of questions that I have about their relationship that is just sort of there. I love the idea on paper that Kingpin looks at Maya like a daughter, that he has been her uncle figure since she was a kid, that they were this close, that he did get her into this criminal life, that he did create this bloodlust that she has in as far as going around and killing people. There's so much to their relationship that's a lot deeper than I think what they got into. I think this was very surface level. This was very much just straightforward, and they didn't take advantage of having these dynamics. I think this whole show could have been better if it took place in the past, if it took place during the time when Maya was working for Kingpin, when Maya was first getting introduced to this world. I think that would have been a far better story. That's also how you would have got more Daredevil. That's probably how you would have got more Kingpin. So overall, looking at this, my consensus is that this show was a mixed bag. I don't think it was out and out awful. I don't think it was terrible. I don't even think it's the worst thing that Marvel has done since Phase 4 or 5. But I also don't think it was great. I also don't think it was perfect. I think it had some good moments. It had some good character stuff, but it could have been better. And it probably should have been better. So guys, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of Echo, the TV show? Do you agree that it has good and bad, or do you just flat out think it sucked? Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later.